and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Grandview Heights in Franklin County, Ohio. Wonderful, welcome. We will get you a copy to sign, and you may proceed with the meeting. You are a member. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we are a full force board, now we're ready to elect our officers. We need a new chair and vice chair, and I think Megan, do I hand this off to you to go through these steps of calling for nominations?
Nominations for chairman.
Yeah,
or chairwoman.
I would like to nominate Ties Van Mossakers for chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think he will fill that role excellently. Do I have someone to second that nomination?
This is Joe Donofsky. I second that.
Okay. All in favor of closing the nominations for chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Those not opposed, say nay.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll say aye, despite the awkwardness of voting for myself.
The chair is elected. Call for nominations for vice chairman or chairwoman.
Joe Donofsky. I would like to nominate Rick Kinzinger to serve as vice chair, if he would be so inclined to accept.
This is Ties Van Mossakers. I second.
Any further nominations? Hearing no further nominations, I call for the motion to close the nominations.
Terry Alexander has joined the meeting.
Is there a member to move the nominations for vice chair to be closed?
I move to close nominations.
All in favor of Kinzinger for vice chair, say aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Aye.
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 Vice Chair Kinzinger.
All right. Given the outcome of those elections, I would, at this point, ask Tice if he would like to take over the chair for the rest of this meeting, or I could continue as chair for the rest of this meeting. It's up to you, Tice.
I'm happy to do it if there are no procedural objections to but I do hope that you'll step in if I make egregious mistakes.
I'll try.
Thanks. Thanks all. So with that, let's move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes for our September 9th meeting. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve minutes from September 9th.
Do I hear a second, or does anybody want to discuss the minutes?
Joe Donofsky. I motion to second.
All in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay.
Aye.
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 Approved.
All right. So thank you. I know that most as the folks calling in are likely to speak primarily on behalf of their own cases, but I would like to ask all of you to now administer the oath, even if you're simply calling in to listen in case you would be so inclined to speak. So I'm going to ask everybody who's on the call but not on the board to swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So please repeat after me. I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I will tell the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I would tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
All right, thanks very much. If folks join in later, either Brian or Charlie, please let me know so that we can administer the oath if people do call in at a later time as well, in case I miss them. The next item on the agenda is, are there any changes to the agenda? Any changes that have come in since the agenda has been sent out?
No changes from the city.
All right. Can I ask everybody to maintain muting as much as possible, because I'm getting some background noise. It looks right now that everybody, most people are muted. So please keep muted. It'll make this meeting a lot more pleasant for all of us. All right, with no changes to the agenda, let's start with case number 1, which is BZA case 11-2020. This was postponed by the applicant. Nope, am I looking at the right? Yes, I'm looking at the right document. So, Mr. Holbein, maybe you can introduce the sort of case in general terms. I know we've all looked at the documents, but maybe you can give us a little bit of context, and then I'll move to staff to see if they have want to add anything to the staff report. So, Mr. Holbein, you want to go ahead and maybe talk about what's in front of us?
Yes, I will go ahead and do that. Thank you. Scott Holbein, my wife and I, Neha, want to add a second-story addition to the rear of our house. It's going to be a addition on an existing one-story addition that's currently in the house. So nothing is, added except we're just building up. We're adding a master suite, bathroom, and an upstairs laundry room, as our family has grown by 2 in a very short amount of time. So we're trying to get a little bit more room for her. And I have my architect, Christopher Villette, here on as well, and he'll probably be the one that could answer more good, technical questions. If you have any of those, if you need any more further details, he's the person to ask.
I am here.
Thanks, Chris.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mr. Holbein. Congratulations on the impending family expansion. Any comments in addition to the staff report from either Director Beauchesne or Consultant Kolker?
No additional comments from me other than what is in the report.
All right. Thanks very much. Typically now we go to any comments from the public. So is anybody on the call particularly or feeling interested in speaking in relation to this case?
I did not receive any requests.
All right. Hearing none, then I now close for public comment and move to board discussion of this case. So, fellow board members, do you want to talk about how you're reviewing this case and what your responses are?
I guess I have a question. This may be a question for Charlie, and I guess it may be a question for the applicant. And I guess as I think through it, maybe it's kind of a 2-part question. I'm not exactly clear on the site plan sheet that we have in front of us. There appear to be 3 calculations for lot coverage on the site plan. And I guess I'm not exactly clear why there's 3, or like what information that they're attempting to convey in the 2 different new site plans. And I think connected to that, I had a question that may be for Charlie, which is, I'm surprised, given what I think this site plan is saying, I'm surprised we're not also talking about a variance for lot coverage here. And I'm wondering why that is.
Chris, do you want to take this one, or do you want me to kind of?
Yeah, no, I can. No, I didn't know if he was actually. Okay, yeah, I can take it. What the original site plan is showing is original blacktop and sidewalk. And what it is we're showing their percentage of lot coverage is we're 53% over. And we're at 53% of lot coverage. Okay. Then when we add the new front porch, keeping everything the same, we then become 55% over, which is the new site plan in the middle. And then the site plan at the top, what we've shown is we're removing sidewalk area in the back. What we're trying to do, and this is how we're directed, is we wanted to go to the original percentage of lot coverage. It's an existing non-conforming. Our percentage of lot coverage is back down to where we were at the beginning, which is at the top of 53%. We started with 53, we added the extra front porch, and then we reduced concrete in the back to get us back down to the original 53% coverage.
Okay. That explains why we're seeing 3 of them. That makes sense to me. And so then I guess my question to Charlie is there a reason that there is a need for a variance for lot coverage, or was there already an existing one for the 53% on this lot, or I feel like I'm missing some information here. I don't know. Maybe Charlie doesn't know. Muted.
Hold on one moment. Charlie lost the ability to sound.
Oh. I suppose if any of the other members of the board have any other questions or comments, we could do that and come back to mine when Charlie's back.
Understanding the original review was done by one of the staff members. My understanding was that it was existing non-conforming at 52%. The board choose to add that if they want to. It's not going to change anything from what I can tell. I thought they were at the maximum based on the conversations I had with the reviewer, but I'm not sure how their calculations, whether they changed from the original or not. If the board chooses that, we can add that to this as a approval.
Well, and
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Didn't mean to jump in on you there. So during the pre-application meeting, this came up as well as the 53%. And on the new site plan, we had a percentage of a conforming or complying for like driveway, and when that was taken out, that took it down to 35%, I believe, which after taking out the existing sidewalk, that was how that got down. Because yes, there's a 53% lot coverage, but given the 10 foot of the driveway and then on front of the garage, that took it underneath the 40%. If that makes sense.
Right. If you look at the original site plan,
I think
the original site plan,
driveway, the code compliant driveway.
right.
So I'm comfortable with if you take that out, it's going to be compliant. I think that this is the third time we've heard this, or second. I lost track.
No, I don't remember seeing this.
Second. Yeah. I'm looking back at the.
Well, I think it was scheduled to be on the August 12th meeting, and then was
Yeah, I think the
postponed.
applicant withdrew it, so we actually haven't reviewed this in front of the board. This is, I guess, Chair Van Mossikers. I do wonder what the basis is for not including the driveway in the calculation of the lot coverage.
This is Joe Donofsky. That the code allows that without counting towards the lot coverage. That number is excluded, and it's the code compliant driveway and the sidewalk. Like, for example, the front sidewalk going from the sidewalk to your house, those two surfaces are removed from the calculation. And that is in the code if someone needs to verify that and make sure I'm correct.
Yeah, that's my understanding too, Joe. So I think Charlie's answer to my question is that once you do the lot coverage calculation and include those factors from the code, that what is counted and what's not counted, that then it is a complying lot coverage. So I'm comfortable with that answer.
Any other board members want to ask questions or discuss their response to this application?
Yeah, this is Rick Stein. I've got a question. In the staff report, the recommendation is to conditionally approve pending reducing the length of the undifferentiated south wall. And so if I understand correctly, the south wall is, all they're doing is building directly on top of that first floor, that addition that is only currently a single story. And so when they discuss reducing the length of the undifferentiated south wall, are they talking about the entirety of the first floor or just the second story addition?
Yeah, I read that as the second story, not suggesting that a change to the foundation, but simply a relief in the second story, as I thought. I thought
The staff report is just talking about the second floor being inset only, not the foundation.
Yeah. And then that inset would be from the on the west. I'm sorry, on the east side, or inset from the south.
They want it inset from the south, the way I understand it. I'm sorry, I don't have the staff report, but the way what we discussed earlier was, or what was talked about, was the desire to reduce the width, so there would be a step back on the east elevation, and that would affect the south elevation, not the length, the width.
Okay.
You could there are a variety of architectural strategies for stepping in a second story so that it's not continuous with the story below. That can visually provide interest as well as break up the massing and make more evident the fact that this is an addition to an existing original home. Other possible considerations might also involve changing the type of material or the direction of material that's applied as a finished material to facades to, in some other way, differentiate between the existing home and the addition.
We have vertical siding on the front with the porch, and we can continue the vertical siding on the back for the second floor.
That could be a strategy you might consider.
But not on the south elevation, or we're just talking about then the east elevation?
That would apply
Well,
to
we
the
take it all
south.
Yeah, we take it all the way around the building.
Mhm.
Just on the addition. I'm sorry. It would be, where we're putting the second floor. If you look on the south elevation, there's a band board that's been added.
Yep.
We would continue that band board on the east elevation and on the north elevation. And we at that band board above, we could do vertical, just like we have in the front.
I have a question about the trim. Is the trim intended to be in different color than the main lap siding?
Yes.
Okay. And I think that also provides some relief and differentiation, because it seems as though the vertical trim is also breaking the plane of the south face as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that as is mentioned in the staff report, that the board we often have conversations about these long continuous walls that happen when people do additions, and we try to do an inset. Typically, if it's a whole two-story addition, it gets inset to break up that long wall. But given that you've got an existing foundation there, that's not what we're asking for here. But it is something to visually break up that long wall, that massing. I think I like the idea of the vertical siding being up on the second floor of the addition, and like you said, that brings around the same concept from the front, where the second story has that vertical on it.
And so would the vertical siding be in lieu of requiring an inset? What are we throwing out there?
I think for me, I would be comfortable with that.
Joe, do you want to chime in? We haven't heard from you yet on this case.
I do like the idea of breaking up the second story, but I do want to note that in this particular application, the total building is still only 47 feet long, whereas some of our prior examples, those buildings were approaching 60 feet in some cases. Even though it's still technically a large addition, it's mostly hidden from the street because of the houses and the trees. So it's not quite as prevalent as, say, a corner lot or a lot next to an alley. Breaking up the siding does make sense, but I also feel that just the window layout, fenestration term, also does a good job of breaking up some of the massing, where some of the prior examples we've discussed, it did, for interior reasons, couldn't have the windows to kind of break up that space. But if the applicant's architect and the applicant would agree that vertical siding arrangement would make the end product what they're looking for. What I caution is coming up with a condition, and then we get halfway through the construction process and realize, ooh, we just didn't like that as much as we thought. So of course it would take a little bit of agreement from everyone else involved.
All right, thanks, Joe. Does the applicant or the architect want to respond to that idea of, I don't know, potentially coming back on the enthusiasm for the vertical siding on the second story of the addition? Is that something that you're comfortable with agreeing to now, or would you rather not?
I guess I'm a little confused. Are you saying that we could start the process, but you may not like it?
No, I think Board Member Donofsky was worried that might be the case from your end of things. So if we, because it sounds to me like the board members who have spoken up so far. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, we're fine with changing the element for the second floor on the siding or a batten. But yes, absolutely. We've matched the vertical that we're doing, the vertical piece that we're doing on the porch.
Okay, so it sounds like we're beginning to see some progress there. Any other issues that any of the board members would like to raise? Any questions? I guess I was curious myself about the roof line. The design guidelines mention and suggest pretty explicitly that the roof line on the addition is lower than the main story, and it looks to me like there is actually are two possible roof lines that you could take a visual cue from, and you chose the higher one. I was wondering if you've considered moving the roof line of the addition to the same height as the I guess the sort of front facade.
What we did is we lowered the pitch of the rear roof. I think the review, the issue was that the new roof behind could be seen from the front, that it was taller. So now we've lowered the roof pitch. We've changed the roof pitch so that it is below the existing roof. The concern is the bearing height and window door clearance, because they have a door going onto this, and we're trying to match that head height.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
But on the original review, we did lower the roof because he was concerned about it being seen from above, and the drawings you have show it lower than the existing roof.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other comments from the board about this case? Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve. Hold on, let me get this right. To approve aesthetic review for BZA case 11-2020 with the condition that the second story portion of the addition have the vertically oriented siding that matching the second story of the front of the house. And I think that's it. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Was that Stein?
Stein.
Okay. Zinosby?
Yes.
Kinzinger?
Yes.
Calnow?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Chair Van Messackers?
Yes.
Approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you all. So let's move on to our next case, 2020 1163 Wyandotte Road. Mr. McIntosh, do you want to talk us through what's in front of us?
Chris Villette
has left
Thank
the
you.
meeting.
Yes. In brief, we have a 1.5 car garage originally built in 1928 at the same time as the house was. At some point in the intervening decades, it was modified to accommodate a larger car. That modification was not done according to any sort of code or standards. In addition to that, contributing to the existing structure's demise, it has fallen prey to carpenter ants and termites, as well as the elements. So it's essentially falling down. Part of that garage is within 19 inches of the property line to the south of us. The furthest away that south-facing wall is, I believe, 23 inches. The entire foundation will need to come out and be rebuilt in order to buttress or there's no salvaging the existing structure is the bottom line. So we have a non-compliant lot. It is wedge shaped. It's about 53 feet at the street, 41 feet at the rear of the lot. That creates some interesting confinements. We would like to replace this garage with a two-car garage. Regrettably, given where the orientation of the garage is right now, a two-car garage cannot be, will not accommodate the turning radius of a car to go into the right-hand side of that bay, given the depth of lot, easements that we have for utilities, and making the turn around the rear concrete steps that go into the back of the house. So what we've done is proposed a reorientation of the garage to be south loading. We are again in the more narrow part of the lot. So in order to be able to make that turning radius and have enough room, we need to infringe slightly upon the side yard setback to the north with the most shallow possible structure. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Staff and/or consultant, do you want to maybe talk us through the staff report, and in particular the suggested, I guess, alternative location or moving the location slightly?
So I will say yes, that the typical development pattern in many of the neighborhoods around town have garages located basically at the rear of the lot, often only 3 feet or less even to the rear of the lot. And the result of the consistency of that garage location is that backyards are adjacent to one another. And so you get that green space that is continuous in a perfect world that provides for some of the neighborhood development pattern and other attributes of the neighborhood. And so if that is something that could be arranged with this garage, it would allow that development pattern to continue as opposed to essentially locating this new garage would interrupt that green space, a continuous backyard green space across lots. So that's just a consideration. Lot coverage is an issue, certainly. And I'm not sure if the applicant looked at that to see if that would be possible, but that would be a suggestion.
All right, thanks very much. Let's, Steve, before you respond, maybe let's go and make sure that people from the public who want to comment on this that have called in or have submitted comments can be heard. So anybody on the call in particular to this case, or Megan, did anybody express an interest in commenting on this case?
No one requested a line.
All right, then I close for, yeah, I was just slow. Then I close public comments. Steve, do you want to answer that question about the location before we go to board comments?
Sure, I think it's an interesting idea. As it relates to continuity, we are boxed in on 3 sides from where the front of the house is all the way around the rear with 6-foot fencing. There is no continuity really to preserve. There's really an interruption there. I guess, you know, if what we're really interested in preserving as much as possible is continuity of green space, hiding, so to speak, the garage behind the house would actually create more, as opposed to right now, or even attempting to shift that garage further back in the lot and further to the north would essentially eliminate any sort of usable space, not to mention put us over the threshold on lot coverage. Not surprisingly, given the size of the lot, we're right at the edge. Right at the edge there. So that is something that we did look at, and we did have a designer play around with from a conceptual standpoint.
All right, thanks for your answer. Any other, any board member comments?
I guess I would say, I assume, I just want to ask the applicant, I assume that part of the reason for not shifting it further to the west is to be able to turn around coming out of that garage. Is that, yeah, so instead of just head in, then you would have to back out if it was directly against the west.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have a lot of tight parameters that we're trying to work around here. One is the easement for the utility lines in the back, and the other is just the practical turning radius. So the location is one that allows just enough room to get around the hard structures of the house, and just enough room for a backing up apron that does not infringe upon the utility easement.
This is Stein. I have a question. So, on the issue of the side yard variance, so we're talking about the north property line,
Yes.
and it's we're talking about 1 foot, right? And so, what is thrown out of whack if we just moved it a foot to the south? What does that mess up?
The bumper of the car is the answer.
No, I'm talking about the whole structure. What if the whole structure were to move a foot, not reduce the size of the structure, just move it a foot to the south?
Right. So if you move the structure a foot to the south, there is insufficient turning radius on the again, we're boxed in by fencing on all sides. So having sufficient turning radius is a function of the depth that we have to start with, if that makes sense. So we can't cut it any tighter backing out of a space to aim the car towards the street, or even to back it all the way into the street, if you're following me.
Okay. And staff will basically I mean, you believe the same thing. I mean, you've looked into this. It is where it is because it has to be to meet the turning requirements.
I actually think, this is somewhat dependent on the car that you drive, and which side of the garage the car is parked on. I can appreciate that it would be a tight turn. I actually think that moving it south a foot, you could still make the turn, but it would be yet tighter. And I don't think, conversely, I don't know that there is a huge penalty that arises by granting a 1 foot variance on the north side. So, taken in context, I don't think that there's a huge reason not to grant the variance.
Rick Stein, were those your questions?
Yep.
For this case?
Yes, they were.
Thanks. Anna, Joe, do you want to let us know your thoughts about this case?
I guess
Go ahead.
exactly. My assumptions were that you wanted to be able to turn around before going into the street. I think it does create a little bit of a dead space behind the garage on the west side. So if it is something that it could possibly be pushed further to the west a little bit. I think that would be beneficial. And I know your garage isn't adjacent to the property that is to the north, but then it would be further in line with it. The other things that I was concerned about was also the lot coverage, and then potentially maybe breaking up the facade of the garage a little bit.
So I'll take your points one by one, and I'll count on you to remind me if I'm forgetting anything. So number one, pushing the structure further to the west creates two challenges. The first is turning radius backing out of the garage. We're now not running into the issue of the south fence. We're running into the issue of the western fence. So there's that constraint, but perhaps more importantly is going into your second point. The further back we push that, the more concrete we have on the lot. We're running right up against the edge of the 35% lot coverage as it is. So from an understanding that compliant driveways are exempt from that, I've had conversations with staff regarding turning aprons, and that seems to be a little bit of a gray area. From a very practical standpoint, occupying a home on a block that has experienced quite a bit of very real and ugly flooding in the basements, we're very sensitive about lot coverage and the impact that has on the neighbor, on the adjacent neighbors. So that's, I guess, your question number one and two about pushing it further west to the adjacent structure or in line with the adjacent structures. And then, I'm sorry, remind me about your third point.
Oh, I think just related to the height of the garage, and then also possibly maybe breaking up like the west elevation or the east elevation, just so maybe creating a datum line around the top portion right before you hit the roof.
Sure.
Just breaking up the aesthetics of it a little bit, because I think then it would maybe relate a little bit more to your house as well.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that we're definitely sacrificing aesthetics here in order to create as minimally imposing a structure to our adjacent neighbor as possible. It's kind of unusual to see the entrance of a garage under that elevation. Normally, you would see it under the gabled portion. What we're trying to do is create the least amount of sort of in-your-face structure to our neighbors to the north, and keep the height of the overall structure down so that it's sloping from their backyard and their line of sight. If it weren't for that consideration, I think we'd be looking at a very different structure that is taller, with a pitch more in line with the primary structure. But we're just trying to operate in some constraints, including consideration for what our neighbors are going to have to live with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, do you want to chime in?
Have the utility easements been abandoned? Because there used to be a sewer easement that was never used in that area. But is there power lines? I just don't remember from. Okay, yeah. So you have the power lines to contend with. So that makes sense why you're not able to push the garage back towards the back of the line and still get your turning radius.
We had AEP back there 2 months ago. So yes, very much in use.
With the constraints of the lot, I think you've done as best a job possible with all of the different variables you have to work with. So my overall opinion is this is probably the best application that can be put forth on this property.
Thanks.
I guess I'll sort of ask the question of the variance in a slightly different way, which is, you know, right now you have 21 feet and 3 inches, right, from the garage southern end, the door basically to the property line on the southern side. I mean, is 23 inches and 21 feet and 3 inches? Is that, you know, is there a magic to that number? Right? I mean, why didn't you ask for a 2 foot variance or 2.5? I mean, what's the sort of the basis for that distance being appropriate, knowing that this garage, you know, will most likely last for decades, as your current garage has, and vehicle sizes might change over that time?
Great question. So, a couple of responses. One is, you know, we will eventually vacate this home and leave it to somebody else to wrestle with the turning radius and their vehicle choice. We are not big car people, at least we're not today. Let's be clear that the amount of space, whether we infringed all the way to the property line or not, would not be compliant with any design standards of turning radiuses. We simply just do not have that space. So what we did do is in the portion of our backyard where we have a lawn, we staked this out and practically attempted the turning radius and with both of our cars. And what we found is that there's a very strong likelihood of let's just call it error with the larger of our 2 cars, and with, again, consideration to the neighbors, we want to allow for adequate drainage on our own property behind any structure. Pushing it any further than 2 feet just does not seem reasonable or neighborly, and so buying ourselves a little bit more space to accommodate for that error is really what the ask is for. I hope that makes sense.
For reference for the board, a typical drive aisle for instance, in a structured parking space or in a surface parking area, contemporary standards would be 24 feet to permit a car to back up and carry on down the aisle. Standards in Grandview Heights permit that to be 22 feet. So the proposal by the applicant is actually narrower than would be recommended by our own code. And it sounds like he's tried to make it as small as he can and still make the turn.
I would point out that 21 foot 3 is at the center line of the garage, and because the north and south property lines are not parallel, it's going to be better than that for one car and worse than that for the other car.
That will definitely factor into which car gets parked in which side of the garage.
Right. Or where your 16-year-old gets to park.
All right. I think we've heard from all the board members, and it does sound that this is a deeply constrained site. In light of time and the other cases on the docket today, if there are any other sort of urgent concerns that board members would like to express, maybe I'm hearing that we're moving towards a motion. I'm trying to intuit this through my screen. I see Rick Kinzinger nodding. I'll ask for a motion from one of my colleagues then.
No, I was waiting for Joe. Joe always seems to like to make the motions, but I move to approve both the 1 foot side yard setback variance. Oh, and is that all we did? We weren't doing aesthetic review for this? I thought we were. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the staff report, aesthetic review as well.
Yeah, it's in the staff report, but not in the agenda, I guess. All right, let me start over. Move to
I think
approve.
before you do that. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Rick. Yeah, if it's not in the staff report, we chose that the staff review is not an issue when we reviewed it because it's a simple garage. So really, if the board does not want to address that from the staff report, I would go by the agenda.
Okay, thanks, Charlie, for that clarification. If my colleagues on the board are comfortable, I'll happily yield to staff discretion to determine that aesthetic review is approved discretionarily by staff, and the BZA in this case doesn't have to re-review. So in that case, the only motion that Rick Kinzinger is about to put forward relates to the variance.
Right. Okay. So I make a motion to approve the 1 foot side yard setback. All right, let me start over. Let me do this the way that that the city attorney likes us to do it. Move to approve BZA case 12-2020, approving a variance from Grandview Heights Planning and Zoning Code section 1153.02E to reduce the required side yard requirement along the north property line from 3 feet to 2 feet for the construction of a new 1-story detached uninhabitable accessory garage structure.
I'll second.
So I heard a second from Rick Stein. Megan, do you want to call the vote?
Megan, you're muted.
Thank you. Stein,
Yes, approve.
Calnow,
Yes, approve.
Kinzinger,
Yes.
Donosky.
Yes.
Chair Van Massakers.
Yes.
Approved.
All right. Thank you very much, Megan. So without further ado, let's move on to 1476 Inglis. Through my agenda away as well. The case number being, I'm going to guess 13-2020. Mr. Stewart, I see you are on the call, and Mr. Coates. Do you want to talk about this case and what's in front of us?
Yes, I'm Mike Coates. This is a simple, I'm unmuted, yes. The simple basement addition, not addition actually, I'm sorry, just remodel. And in order to make the living space usable, an egress window had to be installed. The only side of the house where that would be really good to put one is on the west side of the house. And there's an alley that is 4'8" according to the plot plan from the house. The actual alley pavement is 7 feet from the house. But to put the egress window in, we would be encroaching on the side lot space. So we want to make the basement livable. So we have to put an egress window in, and we want to.
Thank you, Mr. Coates. Mr. Stewart, anything you want to add before I ask staff to comment?
No, I have nothing further to add to that statement.
Thank you. Consultant Colker, Director Beauchesne, do you want to talk us through the staff report?
Sure, this is a fairly simple request. The existing home, there won't be anything added above ground to the existing home. These are, or very minimal curbs on what would be new egress window, essentially recesses down into the ground. There aren't any aesthetic review guidelines that are subject to this, and because of the location next to the alley, one of the considerations with side yard setback variances is they would preclude access for safety services between structures, and because there is no adjacent structure, that's not a consideration here. Staff doesn't have any objections to the requested addition, I guess you could call it.
Encroachment, I guess. Any public comments, Megan, Anybody on the call for this case?
There are none.
All right, moving right along. Colleagues on the board, any questions, concerns, other expressions of feelings that you'd like to share?
I just want to make sure I understand. There's two of these, excuse me, two of these egress windows that we're talking about, right? And they both extend the same amount into the setback. Is that correct?
Or two on the original drawing, but I resubmitted, and it's just one window in the second submittal.
Okay.
So you should have the most recent submittal. Megan could speak into that, I hope, but have the most, but it's the same thing. It's just there's just one of them instead of two.
I don't have that drawing in front of me. Megan, can you confirm that that the city has received this drawing, and maybe Charlie can share his screen to show it to the rest of us?
I am looking for it right now.
I'd like to comment. I believe the applicant did work with staff to reduce it to one. So I haven't seen that actual drawing. Maybe Megan's going to find it, but that would be okay if when you make your motion, you want to approve one of the windows, just have the applicant tell you which one of the two they want.
So are you keeping one of the two, or are you moving this new window into a different location that's not on the current drawing that we're looking at?
It would still be in one of the same locations as the drawing. Since it's on the west wall, it'd be on the further northern one.
Would it be adjacent to the bathroom shower area?
Yes.
So it's this one here that I got my hand on.
I don't think, I can't see.
I can't see that, but it is the one adjacent to the bathroom shower area, yes.
Awesome. Okay, sorry.
So it's the one that's more towards the centered in that west wall, the west side of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it looks like from one of these drawings that you're saying that nothing of this window well will extend above grade. Is that correct? Is that what I'm seeing here?
I think we lost our contractor, Mike Coates, but yes, essentially it would just be more dug out than anything. It would be below the grade of the ground that's there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Anna?
Yes, I also had a question about that as well. Given that it is
A participant
close
has
to
joined the
alley,
meeting.
would there be a reason to add some additional, like a shorter wall around it, or say some kids were biking past down the alley, or somebody who might be driving past, just so they aren't getting that close to that opening? If they happen to go off the actual roadway.
I'm sorry, was that question towards me or was that directed more towards the board?
I think more towards you. Like, I think, would there be a benefit to having a small difference in grade so that somebody doesn't accidentally go into, I think it's better with one than two, but so somebody doesn't accidentally either turn into that, or if it's somebody on a bicycle, accidentally roll into it.
Yeah, or somebody's dog chasing a squirrel falls down there or whatever.
Plenty of those around there.
Yep.
Yes, definitely could be considered. I can definitely bring that up with Mike. Like I said, I think I lost them on here. If that was the preference, definitely can be.
I'm back on. I picked it up on my phone.
There we go. They were just asking about a change of grade, just as far as having the drop off there, in case there was, whether it was a bike, another civilian, or animal coming up through there, just for safety precaution.
Understood. I was planning on putting a lid on it, an enclosed lid with a glass or not with a plexiglass lid for safety, so that somebody couldn't accidentally fall in the hole or an animal or something like that.
There are many products available for that purpose.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's a common item.
Okay.
I will say, as the owner of an egress with one of those lids, if you could tell me the Velcro that's necessary to keep it down during a rainstorm, but that is flexible enough that you can actually escape, because mine is Velcro down, and basically either my kids can't push it off or it blows away with any wind gust. So, I mean, I guess I'd say this somewhat facetiously, but I guess the screening strategy, sort of in addition to the lid, might not be a bad idea, because either a slight wall or even greenery, which is sort of what I ended up sort of reverting to, because those lids, they're not as high tech as you think they are.
Okay. Understood. Yes, I put a hinge on them before at the top of it. I've mounted the hinges on them so that you can lift the lid and it stays attached. But anyway, the greenery is a good idea. Landscaping is a good idea around that to set it apart so that somebody doesn't run right into it.
Rick Stein or Joe, do you want to chime in on this case?
No, because it is on the alley, and I believe the window well you're intending to use is the one furthest away from your neighbor to the west garage. That was my other concern. Now that we've talked about turning radius, and that doesn't appear to have a problem there, but now that you're getting so close to the property line, that would be the only concern of a car, or when they snowplow that alley, getting the damage to your window well.
Okay. How far, the snowplow I could actually understand. How you're still about 4 feet at this point from the pavement itself, though. The window well at its furthest point out is still about 4 feet from the actual pavement.
I would guess the shrubbery that's currently there actually sticks out further than the 12 wood.
Yeah. Oh, it does. Absolutely.
I agree.
Yes.
Rick Stein?
I don't have anything to add.
All right. So I
think we have the neighbor to the west on the call. We could ask her how far she typically drives off of the road. You're muted.
I closed and I closed for public comment, Rick. I'm trying to move things along here. We'll let you in later on, Terry. But you are still muted. So I'm hearing that we're moving towards some form of motion, but there is some talk about screening or kind of a safety strategy, either a lid with combination of a screening. So I guess my question is, do we want to condition that? Is that something that we can formulate a condition around, or do we want to approve as is, basically?
I guess I'm a little, I think everything we talked about is a good idea, but I'm a little concerned about conditioning a side yard setback variance on, you know, what type of lid or what type of shrubbery is around it. It's because this side yard variance is going to be, it's a permanent variance that goes with the property, and it's a little hard to condition that, I think, based on the choices of whoever the current homeowner is, based, you know, for landscaping or for a lid. So I'm more comfortable. I'm more comfortable just approving it without a condition.
Thanks, Rick. Anna, you mentioned the safety concern, I think first, so I want to make sure that, you know, feel free to disagree with Rick, even though, you know, it's your first meeting. If you want to make a counter argument, I'm always, you know, encouraging a healthy debate to yield better solutions at the end. So where are you on the sort of conditioning question?
I'm okay if we don't do a condition. I think I feel better with it just being 1 than 2. I feel like 2 is without any conditionings or any safety measures is kind of asking for a little bit of trouble, but I think this should be good.
In that case, do I hear a motion?
Yeah, this is Stein. I make a motion to approve BZA case 13-2020, request for variance from Grandview Heights Planning and Zoning Code Section 1155.02 C2A to reduce the required side yard along the west property line from 6 feet to 1.8 feet, and the installation of one 48-inch by 36-inch egress window well structure.
I second. Megan, you're still muted.
Donosky,
Yes.
Kinzinger,
Yes.
Calnow,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Chair Van Messakers.
Yes. All right, I think that constitutes approval. So let's move on to case 14-2020. This is situated at 1427 West First Avenue. Mr.
A participant has left the meeting.
Mickley,
sorry. Do you want to talk about what you're asking us to approve?
Yeah, we've got a garage. We're planning on using the existing structure. I'd like to add 3 rows of block to it to increase the height in there, and then also add second floor storage to it.
Thanks very much. Director Shane, do you want to talk us through the staff report? Or Consultant Kolker?
Sure. Let's see here. Technology. Yeah, so the existing garage is quite short. So raising some sidewalls to allow a more normal height for access for vehicles the way they're constructed today is certainly something that would make sense. Let's see, adding stairs with the site is smaller than would be typical for the area or for new lots if there were any. So it's non-compliant in that sense. The storage headroom as proposed is 6'3", making it non-occupiable space, and so it does not count in the overall square footage calculations. the stairs that are proposed do impinge somewhat on the parking area for second car. However, they're indicating a gravel pad to be provided, so the required on-site parking requirements are met. And the entire building will receive new exterior finishes, which will be a big upgrade to what is sitting there now. So all things considered, we feel that it is a positive upgrade to the existing structure, and would recommend approval.
Thank you. Any comments on this one, Megan?
There are none.
Anybody on the call who's not on the board want to speak on this case? Hearing none, I close public comment. Board members, let me hear your thoughts.
So this is not a demo. Effectively, you're taking a roof off and you're raising the height, and then adding in the storage area. Is that correct?
Correct. I think we have the same definition of demo. The existing block structure that is there is staying. We're just adding to it. So the roof will come off, blocks will go on, and then the second story storage.
And is the 6'3", is that, I don't recall how that's called out in the code. Is it needs to be less than 6'3", or it's less than 6'4"? I don't remember exactly how it's in the code. If staff could help remind me.
Less than 6'4" is my understanding.
Okay.
Relative to the height of the garage, I also would just add that, looking at the immediate adjacent area, there are a number of similarly larger or taller garages, which, in looking at the size of the lots in this area, I think, maybe people running into a similar kind of situation where there's not enough room on the lot to accommodate some of the uses that might otherwise be accommodated another way. And so that's driving the interest in having storage available above the garages in this area.
Related to the other garages in the area, and Nick, maybe you can talk to this as well. I was driving by earlier, and it seems like there's a lot of other one-story garages, but then it doesn't appear that a lot of the other garages that are the larger ones on the alley have an actual walk-up. They don't appear to have as much space as what your garage would provide. Do you have an idea how large your garage would appear to others, like in relation to some of the others on your block?
You mean height?
Height and I think overall massing. It appears as though a lot of the other garages have more of a pitched roof line, whereas the dormers really add a lot of space to your garage and really make it stand out more like a two-story structure than some of the other ones.
So I'm sorry, then what's the question?
I guess, have you considered possibly just doing more of a pitched roof instead of, or maybe making the dormers smaller? I feel like compared to the immediate garages, yours is going to be a little bit large.
Yeah, we wanted to maximize the storage space that we did have up there, and it's kind of based on our understanding with our architect and the code is that the dormers don't exceed, I think it was 50% of the roof line there. So we wanted to maximize it. And, as we like kind of walk through Grandview, we see kind of similar layouts and garages. Thought it also looked really nice as well. So that was kind of our reasoning for going with that look.
Okay. I guess this is more of a question for the board, and I know that this is not on review for tonight, but what was included in the documents is the additional covered area for the patio within the backyard. So I guess part of my concern looking at the garage and then also that additional covered area is how that relates to the properties on either side. And I do think they look nice and they're within the recommended or the required lot coverage, but it seems like they're getting a little bit heavier in terms of a scale of clearance compared to the properties on either side.
Drawing A0012 does have the lot coverage calculations.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the coverage, he still has remaining coverage.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And the other thing I would point out is when you look at the elevations, the south and north kind of make it feel like it's bigger. But the dormer at 50%, if we had a 3D of this, I think you would see it better, but that wasn't put in the presentation here. But we do have these similar designs throughout Grandview. At one point in the past, it used to be that those dormers could be 33%. That was quite a while ago, but through time we've come to this kind of level. And I think the thing to remember is the elevations don't really show the true 3D of this.
Yes.
So they're not as imposing as one would see in the 2 dimensions. If that helps you at all, I don't know.
Any other board members want to opine on this case?
I see with your design that you've opted for a stairway for the storage on the second floor. You do have the extra parking to comply with the parking ordinance. But what some have done in lieu of stairs is a pull-down stair to access storage. That's just something that is normally used for a storage garage versus I don't want to use the word lived-in garage because that doesn't apply, but versus a garage for more everyday use. It's probably a better way to state it. Is that my understanding why you did do the pull-down steps?
I think I lost the last few seconds there, but I think I caught the gist of the question. We want something that's quicker, safer, easier to use to get whatever we were storing up there up and down quickly and easily.
Hey, Joe, this is Rick Stein. Are you asking because if they were to do a pull down, then they would not be required to have that additional parking space?
Well, they're using that additional parking space in the event that the parking apron inside the garage doesn't comply. But it's good, based on the lot, it makes sense to have the extra space outside. with a block garage, they have a little bit of a challenge. My preference would be to have the garage, it would end up being 3.5 feet wider. That way your stairs are going in line with the car parking versus using the back part of the garage. Because the way your stairs are arranged, you're losing the parking space. But with a block garage, you're limited on, expanding that wall because obviously it's a block garage. It's not as simple as a, wood structure. I'm just more surprised that the staff didn't recommend doing a pull-down garage for the storage upstairs versus the stairway.
But I guess I feel the need to point out that this is only aesthetic review, so there's not a variance here that we're trying to find a way to not grant the variance, right? This is the only thing in front of us on this is aesthetic review. Beyond that, this is a compliant garage.
Certainly. Agreed. I was just wondering if they have given thought to making the garage a little bit wider versus having the stairs inside the garage and then requiring the parking pad outside.
Well, but like you said, they're working with an existing foundation, right?
Right, but part of aesthetic review is also looking at other options.
All right, as previous Chair Dickerson would say, interesting conversation. Mr. Mickley, I'm going to guess that you're not super excited about the option of tearing down a wall from your block garage to expand its overall size. So then I think the aesthetic considerations are what what we're asked to review here. I will say, just from my personal experience on the board, garages have gotten bigger in Grandview, and I've only been on the board for a year and a half. But in line with what Charlie commented, the dormer width at 50% has become, I think, a somewhat of an informal norm that we've repeatedly kind of asked in line with the design guidelines, although that is actually not explicitly mentioned in the design guidelines. And big garages are popular at the moment. Bigger garages. I will say, just in terms of my own observation and sort of a reaction to this, it's big, but it's in line with what this board has seen and generally approved before. So that's how I'm likely to vote, based on the fact that it is only an aesthetic review that we're doing here. So again, keeping note of time, do I hear a motion?
This is Joe Danofsky. I motion to approve BZA case number. As I'm on the wrong page now. BZA case number 14-2020 for the aesthetic review for the garage structure.
I second.
This is fine. Do we need to include the condition that the height be lowered 6'3"?
Not particularly, because that's what's already proposed in the application, since we're not changing what the application is proposed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Danofsky?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Kinzinger?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Chair Van Massakers?
Yes.
Approved.
All right. Thank you very much. Last but not least, case number 5 for tonight, which is known as case 15-2020. Ms. Alexander, thank you for your patience. Do you or your architects want to talk about through the case that's in front of us?
Actually, yeah, I just think that I saw Brenda chime on. Can you hear me? you can hear me. Okay. All right. Just kind of to start off, I've lived in my house for 36 years, and this garage has leaked for a long time, but it is starting to lean. The door fell off, the service door, part of it fell off, and it's in pretty bad shape, quite frankly. So with that, I decided it was time to redo the garage. So I've been working with Brenda to kind of come up with a new structure, and I'll just let you take it from here, Brenda, if that's okay.
Sure. So new detached garage, like she said, the original garage is kind of fallen down. The new garage, so the existing garage sits really close to the north property line. It sits 18 inches from that north property line. And so to make that code compliant, we're proposing to move that 3 feet off of the property line, which means that she loses some yard at the south. Basically, we're pinched between the north property line and the Inglis Avenue property line because the Inglis Avenue setback is 5 feet further than the house setback. So we're supposed to be 15 feet off of that south property line off of Inglis and 3 feet off of the north, which means we would have a 21-foot 6-inch garage, which is a little bit too narrow to get the proper size door with the proper walls flanking the garage door for bracing that garage door wall. So we're proposing to ask for a 6-inch variance for that side yard setback off of Inglis Avenue.
And I would add to that, right now there is a flower bed that's right there, and it will not impact the grass or the yard space. It will only reduce the flower bed area that's currently around the garage. So I don't think it's taking away any usage of the yard at this stage.
Terry is proposing a second floor space with the stair for ease of access up there. And that stair is impacting the ability to park that second car. So we are asking for a reduction for the dimension of that parking space. And then the third item is just a general aesthetic review. Terry is very proud of her house. She has a very unique house from an aesthetic standpoint, and she wants to make sure that the garage is extremely compatible. So we have really tried to match the detailing with the exposed rafter tails and the trim and the window configurations so that it really adds to the property and isn't trying to be different than the existing house. That's it.
Thanks very much. Liz and Charlie, do you want to talk about the staff report?
Sure. So I think the basic contours of the request have been well defined by the applicant and their architect. More specifically, information as a corner lot, this lot is substantially smaller than what a typical corner lot within the code would be the size for that. The existing lot's 5,500 square feet versus 8,200 as the standard for corner lots, and that setback, as Brenda was mentioning, is quite significant for a lot that is as small as it is. The one, I would say this case is somewhat similar to the prior case. There is an issue with the height currently of the rafters at 6'4". The applicant has been advised that they need to lower that to 6'3" in order to not count that square footage, and can speak to whether or not that is acceptable to them. With regard to the overall dimensions of the garage, those are in keeping with contemporary expectations and code requirements as far as height is concerned. I looked fairly closely at the stair impinging issue. And from what I can gather, based on the rise and run of the stairs, there should be approximately 18 feet available for a second car to park in the garage, assuming that the hood of the car could sit under the stairs. At the point where there's 18 feet in depth, there's about a 4'6" high space under the stairs that could accommodate a hood. And looking just recently at the size of cars, a full-size sedan as a for instance is a little less than 16 feet long. So you could fit a second car in there. It would be quite tight. The 6-inch variance, given the configuration of the lot, seems like a rather small deviation, given that they're correcting a side yard variance on the north side. And we'll have that be a full 3 feet as stated in the code. Aesthetically, staff takes no exception to the design of the garage and would agree that it is sensitively designed and has materiality that is in keeping with the design of the home. The dormer is a similar situation as the prior case at 50% of the size of the roof and similarly designed as well. So in general, I think we would review this case favorably as well with the request that they have come with the exception of needing to lower those roof rafters down to 6'3".
Thank you very much. Megan, any comments on this one?
There are none.
Seeing no other folks on the call, I'm not anticipating any other comments, so I guess I'll close public comments. Fellow board members, any questions or comments on this case?
I have just one question, I guess, of clarification. I'm curious that the applicant might address. It's somewhere in the application, I know it said that street parking, on-street parking has become more difficult over the years. And somewhere in our staff report, it said since street parking is so readily available. And so I guess it felt like there was a bit of a difference of opinion in there. And I just wanted to, I guess, put that to you and see what your thoughts were on how easily is it to park on the street these days?
Well, let's just say that it's become more complicated. And I will say prior to COVID, it was more restaurant, theater, people coming down and actually parking on English because they could not find parking elsewhere. In addition to that, I would say neighbors across the street on Grandview Avenue, even though they have driveways and they have 2-car garages, they are parking on a street. And so that takes up space for where we would normally have been parking. And if it's not that, it's, delivery trucks or construction trucks or landscaping businesses during the day. So I'm not trying to say this is just during a weekend or an evening. This is all the time. And then I didn't know this, but a few years ago, there was an Airbnb across the street with one of the houses. I do taxes, so I mean, I'm never home during February, March, April. But I came home and there's constantly cars parked over there. I'm right next to my house and people getting in and out all times of the day, slamming doors and that kind of thing. So that has stopped, at least for right now. Given whatever's going on with the Airbnb in Grandview. And I'm not really sure what's going on, but I just know that part has stopped. So I will say traffic is coming down to Inglis and parking. And another part of this is not that this has anything to do with you, but just so you know, traffic on Grandview Avenue has clearly picked up. And what people will do is they will cut down Inglis and then turn down the next side street and then hit First Avenue to not go to the lights going north. So we're getting a lot of that cut through traffic as well. And there's, you know, so I don't, and they'll go through the alley too. So case in point with Adam and his egress window coming out. Yes, there are more cars even going up and down the alley a bit too than there used to be in my 36 years. So hopefully that answers your question. They took me off the traffic committee. I think they didn't like me on there.
Yeah, thank you. That does answer my question.
Modernity, Rick. Modernity has happened. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I'm in, and I know you were conserving space, but because parking is such a constriction, that would more thought be given to have that garage a tiny bit bigger to accommodate 2 cars to meet the parking standard?
Well, I think it is large enough to accommodate 2 cars. And as I think Nick maybe before me had mentioned, I have a Subaru Outback. I'm not looking to see large vehicles being parked in that garage because I don't think the spacing would be appropriate for that anyway. So we did actually lower the height of the garage door for that reason. We just didn't feel as if we needed a really large garage door. I'm not saying parking on the side of my house is impossible. I'm just saying it's become a bit more challenging than it used to be. So, and to be able to have a 2-car garage is, I think, valuable to the house once I'm no longer there too.
And Rick Stein, do you want to contribute anything? You want to share your thoughts?
This is Rick. I live in a very similar location, similar lot size on a corner. And so I am aware of the limitations of living in such a constrained thing. The 6-inch side setback variance seems reasonable. And I guess I kind of have the same questions as Joe, although I mean it's not a burning concern, but just the you know, by reducing the size of the garage as you've proposed, it you know, effectively it is reducing the number of spaces, although you know that is all predicated on the size of a car. And so I would just, you know, if parking is a concern on the street, then you know having a garage that can accommodate 2 cars would seem to be more practical. And two, let me put it, 2 average, or maybe even 1 above average size car and 1 average size car. Probably not enough to get me to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rick, I guess, you know, for how the garage is at this particular point and where the stairs would be, I don't find that I'm going to have any difficulty with parking the car there, I guess, unless I'm missing something. But there's a lot of space in the front of my car now, and we're not necessarily reducing the size a great deal. It's 4 inches and 3 inches one way versus the other. So I don't know, unless I'm not getting something, Brenda. I didn't think 3 inches and 4 inches would impact it a great deal.
It's really about the stair. I think I forget what it said in the staff report about there's a certain size required for a parking space in Grandview. and that stair is impacting that size, even though, as mentioned previously, you'll be able to kind of pull under, that stair as it goes up. So you'll be able to get a small car, what I'll call a regular car. And the bigger car always parks on that south side and the smaller car parks on the north side. And if someone has two SUVs, they can take the stair out and put a pull down ladder in instead.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Or they could get rid of one of the SUVs.
Exactly. And the self-driving car is coming soon, right? And then you only need one car.
Oh, don't get me started.
Yeah.
Let's stay focused.
Staff just has a comment. I mean, I get where we're going here. The space is 9 by 19, I believe. And, we're down by 18 feet now. My question is, we're building a new garage and we have to ask for a variance on the size of the parking space rather than make the garage the right size so you don't have to. So the future people can also park two SUVs in there without worrying about whether they're going to bump their head or, do any kind of thing, be able to do anything with the car. That would be the question that I would pose. I mean, is it possible the garage could be 23 feet deep and still achieve what you want?
During the design phase, Terry was very adamant that we don't take any more yard space than we absolutely had to. And so that's what we stuck with.
You still have lot coverage room?
We have only like 75 feet.
So it'd be 1 times 22 or 3, whatever the width.
Yeah, we have room to add a couple feet.
Just a thought. I mean, it seems like we're building a new garage and, why not have the proper widths inside?
Okay.
That's for the board to consider. I just thrown that out there that,
Yeah, maybe I'll weigh in, and I'm certainly interested in hearing your take as well. My approach is to look at what's in front of me and believe that the applicant has been diligent in requesting what they want. That's the sort of level of capability that I expect from our applicant. So I'm more comfortable in simply making a discrimination about what's in front of me rather than upselling them bigger SUVs or bigger garages, because that's not, I believe, the business that the BZA is in. So if if you want to reconsider the design as currently, that's up to you. But then I would want to see it sort of again. So I'm comfortable voting on what's in front of me right now. But if we're making drastic decisions, including or alterations, including the increasing size, my intuition would be and my preference would be to see it again. So that is, I'll say that I think the current garage is accurately and beautifully designed. I think the side yard setback is minimal, and I'm not that worried. If you're not worried about the variance related to the parking size spot, so that's just how I'm reading the current application. If you choose to increase the size of the garage and alter the design, in my view, I would like to see that drawn out again. So that's just my take on this sort of question. But we haven't heard from board member Anna yet, so maybe you want to chime in as well.
No, I think I would agree with everything. I think the garage fits the same footprint basically that it does right now. And I know that there's sections in the design guidelines for keeping green space, which I think there's groups, especially like Sustainable Grandview, that want to keep green space, and I am fully supportive of keeping green space in your yard space. It's a beautiful yard. So I think that the garage as it is designed fits very well in the space and seems in proportion to the other buildings around it. I think a 6-inch setback variance is acceptable.
Thank you.
Maybe my dissension is being misread, so I respectfully appreciate your opinions, but my main statement is we have the ability, the side yard setback 6 inches, no concern. But once again, when an applicant is proposing a new garage and the site fits a garage that meets the minimum parking standards in the code, so you're now creating a practical difficulty and then asking for the variance because you've created the practical difficulty that can be avoided. So we're asking for a variance on the parking lot size to accommodate stairs, which is creating a self-inflicted situation. That was my point on we have the opportunity to put a garage that would fit the minimum parking standards that Grandview in the code states, that we have the ability to do that. I just wanted to propose that in case other board members felt that they didn't want to grant the variance for the parking space size, because going with a chairman's perspective of deciding an applicant an application as presented, if you didn't agree with the parking space size, you would then vote down the application. That's why we have the potential for conditional to overcome some of those technical issues.
Yep. Thanks for that clarification, Joe. That's. I guess let's put it to the applicant. Right. That's the sort of it's your desire. So would you prefer that we take a vote on this application, or would you suggest we table it to allow you to come back with a revision? Because I think that's what would it require if we were to approve a version of this garage without the variance for the parking space size.
I think I'm fine with the design as it is. I mean, we've kind of gone through it several times, and I don't have any problems with the fact that there's a stairway, and part of that will be over part of the car. My car will fit just fine there. So.
All right. I think that's pretty clear. So do we want to discuss this further, or do we want to move towards a motion to vote on this application as is?
I think.
Or do we want to suggest a condition?
I think I want to just, sometimes we want to say things just to get it on the record. It doesn't necessarily affect the outcome of this. And I guess I just want to say that I'm struggling a little bit with the fact that this is a variance. It's kind of, let me say, in our typical way of approaching these, this is an unneeded variance. Because it has a very obvious solution, which is just make the garage a foot longer, 1.5 feet longer, whatever it is. Now, assuming that doesn't then create another variance, which I don't think it would. Now, having said that, I think in this case, I'm comfortable with it because we've got a couple of adequate responses to it. One is that it is trying to preserve more green space. I also think it's worthwhile reiterating what Brenda said about you could always take the stairs out and put in a pull down in the future. So I guess I just wanted to talk that through a little bit. That I think I am comfortable with this one, but I think it isn't. It's we don't usually grant a variance because somebody wants something to be smaller. It's maybe the first time I've ever seen that.
It's a new world.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's all I have.
If there are no further comments, I will motion to approve BZA case 15-2020 for the side yard setback of 6 inches, for the aesthetic review, and also the variance to reduce the 1 parking space size as listed on the application.
I second.
Stein?
Yes.
Calnow?
Yes.
Onosfi?
No.
Kinzinger?
Yes.
Chair Van Messackers?
Yes.
4-1 approved.
All right. Thanks very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other business?
No other business.
Terry
No,
Alexander.
Has left the meeting.
No other business, no staff communication?
Right, none.
All right. Then I hereby adjourn the BZA meeting for the City of Grandview Heights. Thank you all. Thanks for your patience. And welcome, Anna.
Yeah.
Welcome, Anna.